lake. When there are no leaves on the trees, that great big light that's on your building that blinks all night long, I can see that from my bedroom window. There's other things that need to be cut as far as spending, but I'd like just to, if you could tell the folks what you spoke with Mr. Campbell for an alternative, because that is in your Plant Moran study, that alternative suggested.
Yeah, it's certainly an option available to us, but I did speak with Mr. Campbell. He had never been to the school. He was not familiar with it until he got some recent inquiries due to this process. So he didn't have a lot of familiarity with the building itself, but did recognize that based on its age, being in excess of 50 years, it could potentially be a viable location for a historical designation. However, that's a very long and complicated process, not something that the district can do. That requires a municipality, the city of Walled Lake, to begin that process, to put together a historical commission, to do their studies, to do some public hearings. So, and obviously the school district would have to approach the city to request they do that. So that's a long, complicated process, and in what future potential uses would be conducive to the community ed center remains unknown. Right now, we know one of the best uses for it would be a school, but the last thing we want is a charter school taking over that building and competing with us for our own kids. That would not be in our best interest. So, we've done some preliminary studies. We've looked at it with some developers in the past after the initial study was complete. The school's not real conducive to a lot of other purposes without a tremendous amount of renovation. The school was constructed over the years of many different sections and additions. It's got multiple levels. In addition to the 3 levels you see, they've got multiple intermediate offices and classrooms that are off these different stairwells that, frankly, today couldn't be built. Would be completely non-code compliant. Couldn't build them today. So making a space like this barrier-free accessible, extremely difficult. You mentioned the renovation that was made to the building after Geisler was open. So after Geisler was open, there was a recognition that a lot of work needed to be done to community ed. A plan was developed, I believe it was with the '96 bond, to really address the accessibility challenges of that building. That's why the north tower was put on, where you walk up to the entrance and they've got the elevator in there. The original plans for that called to put in 2 towers, a north tower and a south tower, because right now the 2 sides of the building are not really linked together from a barrier-free standpoint. In fact, we've had some students in our transitions program who have gone from their life skills area up to the gymnasium that have had to go outside to get into the gym. So it's not a very conducive building, and in that project, I believe the project started in '97, was completed in '98, they ran into so much cost overrun building that north tower due to all of the unexpected challenges of fitting a new construction into the original construction, that they ended up running out of money and never built the south tower. They actually canceled the south tower because they ran out of money with the renovations to the north tower. So we know that anybody that were to try to come in and repurpose that building into something, you name it, a living quarters, a light commercial, a professional complex, anything like that, is going to incur some huge, I'm talking millions of dollars in renovation costs to make that building conducive and to make it so that it met today's codes for both compliance and then electrical and plumbing and mechanical and those kinds of things. So it's a challenge and one that is going to take a long time. For some, it's going to take a long time and a lot of money.
So if you did sell the building, wouldn't there be some sort of a clause that you could put that it would be available for school? Or, and in that matter, if you sold the building, what would you care? If, you know, that's like selling your house.
You don't want to sell
You
that
know.
building.
Well, I'll share with you this. There's been, within the past several years, laws have been enacted. We, as a public entity, are prohibited from putting a deed restriction that precludes or prevents another legal public entity from operating any kind of a business. So a charter school, which is a public school, we could not put in any prohibitions, put in any deed restrictions that would prevent a charter school from opening up their own program in the community. That would be against the law.
Are you saying there's code violations in that school right now? I mean, Walt Lake in the school we're talking about?
No, but if anytime you renovate a space,
Yeah, you
anytime you
renovate.
touch a space, you have to bring it up to current.
But if we don't renovate it, we're good, right?
We're using it now.
There's no code violations.
We're using it now, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but, you know, the concept of repurposing has been brought up a lot of times, and to do that, we know it's gonna be extremely
Okay, we
expensive.
know that's not right.
Mr. Chapman, you shared with us cost of not renovation, but maintenance of the building. Some issues that the building has that need attention, such as the roof. Can you share that with these people and possible expenses?
You know, one of the
that?
things I do as the operations director is I keep an ongoing list of what our building needs out there. We have, you know, we've got 19 schools, 24 buildings, 2.5 million square feet. We've got tons of facility needs out there that were not part of this last bond. This last bond, remember, was safety, security, and technology. That we really refined it to focus strictly on those things. At Community Ed, I've had this list going for, well, over 15 years. We've knocked off a few things here and there over time. Right now, I have probably $800,000 to $1 million worth of roofing needs alone in that building. So when you look at your roofing, you look at your parking lot, you look at your heating, your cooling, your electrical systems, some ceiling systems that need to be replaced, lots of other infrastructure areas. I have millions of dollars in needs just to bring that building up to a standard that I would like to have it to today. We operate without it. We continue, you know, our occupants are safe in the building, but there are things that I would like to do, things that we frankly need to do if we're going to keep that building for the long term. My list totals $6 million today.
What did it
$6
need
million.
5 years ago? What did it need 10 years ago?
It needed a lot of the same
Did you
things, but
budget
they've gotten
anything for
worse.
it 10 years ago?
We've done some things over, we've done some parking lot work, we've done some roof patching. Keep in mind, I get $2 million a year out of sinking fund. We've got a sinking fund, a capital improvement fund. $2 million is fantastic. It was voted on by the community, greatly appreciate their support. But $2 million amongst 2.5 million square feet and 24 buildings, you can't do everything that needs to be done every single year. So we focus on the top
Like the
priorities.
budget you got right now?
And we've done a lot of things over community ed, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. So any developer that comes in and tries to repurpose that building is going to have to incur a lot of those costs right off the get-go before they even think about redesigning the building.
Yes, sir.
Could you clarify, if I remember from one of the first statements, first charts, renovation costs were pegged at $2 million, but now you're commenting is that really the renovation costs are in the $6 to $8 million range?
No, those were two different topics. Renovation costs for remodeling of Western High School, some things we're gonna have to do at Geisler, some things we're gonna have to do with some other schools. If we are to relocate programs from community ed to those other schools, are in the range of $1 million. The demolition costs of community ed are in the range of $750,000. So the total of those things just related to this topic are $1.75 million. The $6 million is a totally different category. Those are needs we have at community ed today, just to bring it up to current standards.
Okay, I'm confused by that first chart. You throw that up there, there's a $2 million number.
Bill, I think he's speaking about the money that you're.
Talking about this, the renovations related to program relocation? Is that,
I believe he's talking about the $2 million that would have been spent on the safety, security, and technology.
The bond money, yeah. Yeah, there were bond funds set aside to do the safety, security, technology upgrades. Keep in mind, that bond proposal was put together in 2012, voted and approved in 2013. The Community Education Center was always intended to be phase 3 of that program, 2016. When we got to the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, when we began the process of developing the plans and specifications for those safety, security, technology upgrades for community ed, that's when this subject of, man, you know, we're not sure if we're going to need this building in the future based on enrollment and projections and so forth. And that's when we put that project on hold for community ed. So those bond dollars are what we would use to cover these other costs for renovations of the other buildings and the potential demolition. Yeah.
Okay, if you talk about student decline, yes, it has gone down, but I see building all over. So we're going to have it, and that's why they say maybe 5 to 7 years that we'd have to build. Then they'll come at you again for more money, for a new school. That's what happens. We talked about an empty classroom in a building. Empty, I was in the schools. Empty classrooms are gold because they're used for so many different activities by a teacher. Will use it for a study group, or a person comes in from ESC that has to test a child. Those are gold mines. You have, under Mr. Gutman as administrator and this board, he has gotten rid of the bus drivers, he got rid of Maple, he got rid of Twin Beach. So this would be the third school that he would get rid of. Why do we get rid of them? Is it so they can come at you? I don't know. And to save $225,000 is nothing. Because let me know, please tell me how much money is at ESC. They don't touch the children's lives. They're the ones that run the administration. So if you can't get rid of a couple of administrators, in my opinion, that would be a good idea. Well, I'm going to tell you something. I have gone to school board meetings for over 20, 25 years. When my children were there, I do have grandchildren in the building. And I have worked with many, saw a lot of things. But they're having this meeting today for you. This is the first I've heard about all this. I retired, got out of the system, and I guess lived. And what they're doing is having a meeting here. You go to the meeting on March 2nd, is that when it is? I'm almost positive. I bet money that this is already done.
Yeah.
This building is gone.
Yeah, that's
To
what this is.
to this school district.
They already know what they're going to do.
They tell it, excuse me, they tell it their way, and you guys will all maybe just listen, but they're going to do what they want to do without your input at all.
And they keep saying things like 15 years we've been talking about this, like as if that matters. We don't care if it's 50 years.
What I'd like to ask, though, and I'd love to have this statistic, how much money is spent at ESC? Just at ESC on salaries? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good luck, people.
You guys have got a tough job. Some of you recognize me here. I'm a retired Walled Lake teacher. Worked in the district for about 25 years.
What's the name?
Joe Salix. I worked at the community ed building when they put community high school in there. The year they built Geisler Middle School, we moved that alternative ed program into the community ed building. And I was there until they got rid of it. So I've got some personal attachments to that building. I've been with the district, or have been with the district long enough to see changes that happened at the ESC. When I first came to the district and we went to the ESC building, you couldn't move, there were so many people in there. All the offices were occupied, there were people everywhere. Before I left, if you went to the ESC, it was like a ghost town. So they have made cuts at the ESC. The only reason that I'm here at this meeting is because when I was a history teacher at Community Ed, I buried a time capsule in the front yard of Community Ed Center. And if you guys are gonna tear it down, I want my time capsule. So you just gotta let me know. But I'm hearing a lot of stuff here, and my heart is still with Wall Lake Schools.
Yeah.
You cannot, it's tough, because I understand, you guys went to those schools, you guys have been community members forever. But you guys have got a budget to work with.
You know, we got the village idiots that want to do something to our town, you know, it pisses me off.
Well, they're all, the school boards voted in, did you vote for them? Well, next time you vote,
Nobody runs.
if you,
Well, I'm taking names this time around.
well, you guys, oh my goodness, I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
Any
I
questions?
think maybe what we ought to do is maybe ratchet the emotions and some of the negative comments and some of the negative language. I don't care to hear it. I don't put up with it for my kids. I want to come to a public meeting and hear you talking about it that way.
I understand, sir.
Don't tell me about getting pissed off and all this other crap.
It touches
It's
my
a
heart,
meeting, it's
sir.
a meeting, it's
I
fine.
know, I
Be
understand
emotional,
your
be
side.
passionate, you don't need to be rude.
I understand your side.
Here, here.
Can we just ratchet it back down and talk about some real facts?
The,
One fact maybe that says you talk about enrollment, declining enrollment. My question is two parts. Is there a historical cyclical value in the enrollment of the schools? Part two, in the area covered by the Wall Lake School District, are we built out? Is there more potential for added households? Those two questions, that might help put the enrollment in perspective.
And I'll ask Mrs. Les and Mr. Chetfield to help us out with that, because we work with the demographers. But we do have projections annually. We receive two projections, one from Michigan State University and from Plant Moran, and we blend those two. And we have I've been with the district 6 years, for at least those 6 years, projections of 5 to 7 continued years of decline. When we have these preparatory conversations with these demographers, they ask about everything from birth rate, they analyze new construction anywhere in the district. They have algorithms that they incorporate all of that information in the county as well as in our district before they come up with their projections. But I'll defer to Mrs. Les and then Mr. Chapel can talk about our available space in the district.
to the West Coast.
I was going to say that as well, that they do take into consideration, they talk to all of our 9 communities, they call each of them and talk about every subdivision or building that's going on in terms of what year they expect each unit to be complete, so it's really down to those specifics. And they do take a look at our history. I can tell you that there is no up and down, that actually we had many years of continual growth, and thus the additions of buildings and things like that. It was 1997 when we experienced our first decline, or I'm sorry, 2007 when we experienced our first decline, and it's been continuing like that since then. And the next 5 years show continual declines. It's really based on two things, and it's been mentioned before. We capture approximately 7% of the live births in Oakland County, our school district does. And so they can look at those, they know for the next 5 years how many kids we can expect to gain, and we know what our current classes are and what those graduating seniors will be. And so when you compare those over the next 5 years, if nothing else happens, even with all of the building that's happening, the 7% is going to be about 1,200 kids less than what our current 8th through 12th graders. And then the other thing that is having an impact on our lack of enrollment is that families love it here and are staying here. And for the longest time, when the economy was doing well, families moved out. You had seniors who sold their homes and moved to different places. That just hasn't happened in the last 7 years, and folks are staying here. We have an older community than we did for years, and so that has an impact on our enrollment.
I know Mr. Chetfield, the second part of the question about do we have available space for buildings? Was that your question about available space for buildings?
Is the area that's covered
or are we built out?
Is the
Yeah.
housing, is it gonna continue on?
No, you'll still see some developments taking place. In fact, right now, there are 3 developments taking place in our community that are from properties that we, Wall Lake Schools and our Board of Ed, sold to developers. 2 of those, I'll just mention, Maple Elementary and Twin Beach Elementary. Again, very difficult time, very difficult process to go through and close a building and then redistrict those students. But similar circumstances, short of funds, excess capacity space, and we need to do a better job utilizing that space. So we did sell those properties. We tore down those schools and we sold the land to developers who are putting in residential housing communities in those spaces right now. So, but, keep in mind that is a total of, between those 3 developments, that's a total of 130 to 40 houses that will be built. That's great, we'll take it. If we get, 40 or 50 students out of that, that's fantastic, we'll take that as well. But that just is, it will never make up for, the number of seniors we have graduating at each year relative to the number of kindergartners we have coming in. And as Mrs. Les mentioned, the biggest challenge is that as those seniors graduate and as their parents stay put in their houses, we just aren't getting new younger families, as many young families as we need to replace the graduates.
Thank you. This gentleman in the back has been waiting. You're certainly welcome to come up to the podium if you'd like.
All right. There's not gonna be no legal 3-minute speaking role used here, is there? Like they do in
They will at the
place?
school board.
Hi, my name's Dennis Burks. I live in Wall Lake. I've lived there for 53 years. About 6 of those 53 years I lived in Novi. I lived in Wixom a couple of years, but my parents have owned the house in Wall Lake since the day it was built in 57. Well, it was built in spring of 58, actually. Anyways, it's across from basically the train station there in Wall Lake, down Spring Park. I went to Wall Lake Junior High, called the Community Education Center. My mother went there, my 2 older brothers, everybody, all the children on Spring Park went there. We went to Wall Lake Elementary, we went to Wall Lake Western. That building is, it's very, I'm very fond of the building. There's a lot of people are, and, I can't believe that, I think maybe the consolidated schools has outgrown itself. Maybe it needs to downsize and be dissipated. There's too many people involved in it. Things get missed, things come up missing, way too, people are overpaid. Things just seem to fall apart when something gets too big. The thing about the school also is talking to one of the city council members. Wall Lake doesn't apparently have any disaster plan of any type. And that would be a great building if something did happen, say tornado outbreak, it's been a long time, and we are susceptible to bad weather. F4, F5 tornado comes through a section of town, it's going to take the houses, it'll take the concrete and everything off. So that's a good building, a gathering place for disaster.
Oh, God help us.
And it's been a long time since we've had anything happen like that in Wall Lake. As you can see I can see in the crowd that there's only one person here from the Wall Lake City Council. Her name is Susan Helke. She's on the Wall Lake City Council. She's the only person she's the only person that's there for the citizens.
She's a Finlander.
She is the best person on that council. Everybody there is just there for the power and the money. Anyways, you would think the city mayor or city manager would be here. Apparently, it doesn't mean anything to them. I know a lot of people that went to that school that are not here, you know, they're working. Yeah, working. I'm retired, not legally, but that when I let them know that they were thinking about getting the school down, that they're upset. My
Yes.
son,
I'm sorry, may I just interject here just a little bit, if I may? If the building is torn down and the property is up for sale, I'm a former planning commissioner, so I'm concerned about how soon does Wall Lake, I mean, they want the taxes.
yeah,
And how soon does the council then get the money for the taxes and the redevelopment, which is a commercial piece of property? There's vacant stores and buildings all around in the area. Who's to say that that is going to be redeveloped? Now, our gentleman here said that the two schools was sold and have been redeveloped in a residential area. The other comment too that our lady here made is that in this pressed time that the school district doesn't get the money that it normally would in a transient type of community, that they're moving, selling houses, and other people are moving in. It's the people then that are going to have to stay here and be here, and that's going to put down roots. And we're right back to the very same thing. They're going to have roots like we have today. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it was right at the time about the city. Unfortunately, the city does not want to preserve anything with history.
No.
And that is a sad commentary for our community. Because
Yes, it is.
who's to say they're not going to support the school and to have them preserve that old iconic building?
yes, they would, I would not put the city of Wall Lake past bulldozing over the war memorial down by the lake with the photo map. That's what I think they're embarrassing. Like I said, it would be a good emergency building for if we had a disaster or anything here. My son went to preschool there. It was the first time he's ever been on a computer. Now he basically has to have his own substation for his computer that he built. Thanks. I can feel love that. A lot of people who are not from the area, who don't have the fondness of the building or the city, you know, I kind of look at it like, you really shouldn't have anything to say about it. Because you don't have any attachment, you grow up around here. I don't know how to say it, you know, but it's, the city of Wall Lake is terrified that they might get hit with the bill for the cleanup of that building if it was torn down. They are terrified that maybe the church would buy that property and they wouldn't get a dime of tax money on it. It's pathetic. I think it's a bad idea, like it was mentioned before. Maybe 20 years, 30 years from now, it could be torn down. I think the $225,000 stated is basically coffee creamer money for the quality schools. There's no way. If I got into your books and found people being overpaid, wasted money that should have been spent someplace else, I'm sure I could find that money.
It's the administrators, not the teachers.
Yeah, oh, and another thing, when I went to school, 28 kids in a classroom was considered full. Now they're putting 36 kids in a classroom.
I had to get off for a year.
My first grade teacher is here, which I haven't seen in years. And it goes to show you, there's a lot of people concerned about this.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your concerns. Let me go back to Mr. Saylor. I know that his thoughts weren't complete. We kind of diverted to a couple other questions, then we'll take some more.
I just have two more comments. Number one, the $700,000 market value, is that real? I mean, that seems like that property would be worth a lot more than that.
I know that Mr. Chetfield talked with the
Yeah,
realtors.
we've talked with a couple of local realtors, brokers in the area, and that's the low end of what they, but that's, so we felt comfortable putting the low end.
Yeah, 'cause that's a big piece of property right on Pontiac Trail. The second thing is, you're gonna have to pay one way or the other. It doesn't matter to me, I don't live in Wall Lake, I don't work for Wall Lake anymore, and I hear a lot of emotion here, and I love that building, and it'd be great to see that building stay. But if it does, are you as citizens of Wall Lake willing to pay for it?
Well, we've already
Well,
voted in
if
2 million.
if you can kind of play for it, and, you know, God bless you, let's keep it open, I'll keep my, I'll keep my time capsule in there and open it in 30 years.
Let me tell you something. The money that they spent on this Wall Lake City Hall parking lot, which is over, we believe, $1 million, that was illegally voted in, the public was not notified of this meeting. There was a federal law, state law, ethic codes broke at that meeting, and it was over $1 million. The city could have bought that property. That's $1 million is not that much money anymore.
No, it's not.
It is to me, but in the grand scheme of things, $1 million isn't that much. I could actually probably go to the bank and get a loan.
Okay, I know
Believe it or not.
many people still would like to share their thoughts, and we appreciate your comments, so let me continue with that. I know that you've been waiting for a little while.
Hi, my name is Tricia Kowalski. My son is a senior at Wall Lake Central, and I'm so excited about the transition program. I don't mind this building being knocked down. Some of the price of it is parking all those cars that are out, you know. But moving into Western, that wouldn't be good. You go from Central to Western, we're excited as heck about, you know, the transition program. You know, the bus picks you up in his own school, and going from one school to the other would be hearing the bell ring every day. You said that it would be in a normal place, but they'd still be in this all the time with all the other students. He's graduating, he's special ed. He needs
And if you didn't hear that
He's at Central, he's at Wall Lake Central.
similar theme,
Because they're saying they're gonna move to Western.
let me just respond to that. If you didn't hear that in the back, the concern was, as a parent of a child who is looking forward to moving to the transition program out of a high school, it's being moved to another high school. And when we've had these preliminary conversations over the last couple of years, we looked at two parts of the conversation. One was the physical space. Could we relocate the physical space and the needs of the program? But the more important conversation is what are the ramifications of these moves? You know, we can mention the WIC program, some of the other programs, and that is the number one concern of the employees and the parents in the program, is that loss of that sense of independence. That you leave high school to go to another location, and you would be back in another high school. And so we've heard that is the primary concern with the relocation of that program.
You can sell this building, and I know it has emotions for people, but it is old. It's gonna take $6 million. It's not worth it.
Misappropriation.
So why don't you buy the old Commerce Library? That's a nice big building.
Well, and we did look at a couple other locations, but again, this part of this is being able to relocate to existing programs that don't incur additional costs. There were some other locations that we tried to look at. We don't currently have another viable option within our school district where we could relocate the 60 young adults that are in that program. And so for us to rent another place defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do with respect to being fiscally responsible.
To Western either.
Yeah, I understand.
It's no good.
I understand. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Ann Grata. My son has been in the transition program now for 6 years. He's got one more year because he's 26 next June. But a couple concerns. Wall Lake, where the community ed is located, they do so much walking in that community. I'm worried about the Western location because they walk to the Dairy Queen, they walk to the downtown, they go to the farmer's market, that shows independence, you know. You don't have that at Western. You don't have even that safety issue, I don't think. I mean, Kroger or McDonald's maybe are the closest. The other thing is, I don't really want them using the weight room that the others use. I mean, they have their own weight room there. So you have to have another classroom dedicated for those 60 students to get that same type of program that they get at the transition center. Not use the general weight room that's there.
You're right, and we worked with the director of the program, director of special education, as well as the employees. I mentioned right after our last board meeting, I conducted a field trip. Mr. Chatfield was was along, I think, Visamola, and we brought all the employees over there. And so we did look at the fitness equipment, where that would be relocated to. And so it's really a question of, in the CEC, they have had so much space with this empty, large building that they've kind of commandeered several classrooms. So they have some wonderful luxuries there as they've expanded, and rightly so. You mentioned before, an empty classroom is gold to a principal. As a former principal, you better believe I'd use that up for speech pathologists, for small reading groups, and so you use the space that you have. And so it's really a question now of the program needs versus the luxuries we've had over the last several years. And so they're difficult conversations, but we're working with our employees and we're listening to our employees and parents. That's why we're here.
And will there be separate entrances for the bus to get off, so they're not coming in with a big group of students at 7, whatever?
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons that the cost, the relocation cost is high. The largest chunk of that $1 million is the transitions program, and a completely separate entrance, a completely separate bus loop with a canopy for the students that need assistance, with walkers and wheelchairs. And so we're considering all of it. And
What about cafeteria? I think there's a big cafeteria with the high school students. Are they going to have a separate lunch area?
And we've talked about that. We're working out the logistics. The fortunate.
I don't know. I'm just saying there's a lot. I mean, we did have lunch breaks, but it's for the good of the special ed adults.
Right. The fortunate aspect of the program is they really can set their own times. So we're even talking about possible different times, that might accommodate the use of a separate cafeteria. So all of those kind of details. It's premature for us to have it all fleshed out because it hasn't been voted on, but we certainly have had those conversations.
My son told me 40 years ago.
And all of that is being considered.
Yes, ma'am, you've been waiting.
I have a couple questions and I'll try to make it brief. My name is Sue Halke. I've already been outed that I'm a city council member in Walled Lake. And so I kind of see both sides of this issue. I'm trying to understand the dollar factor, but I want to make sure I've got this right. So the cost of demolition is $750,000, and I know these are all approximate. The cost of relocating the programs is going to be about $1 million. So that's $1,750,000. But the value of the property is $700,000. So that means you've still got over $1 million into this demolition at a savings of $225,000 annually to maintain. It looks like it's gonna take you about 5 years to make that money back, is that right?
I just wanted to take a moment, and this is probably more information than you need to know because it's a function of accounting and how school funding and how we track our funds works, but I think you need to understand that school funding is different than any other entity, except for non-for-profits. They work sort of the same as us. But we have what's called fund accounting. And what that means is that each individual fund balances all by itself. So if you know about accounting, assets plus liabilities, or assets minus liabilities equal your fund balance, they balance in and of themselves. So when we talk about the general fund, those are the dollars and the fund, just like a company. So think of the general fund as its individual company. Those are the dollars that are spent on all of the operations for the school, all of your teacher salaries, everybody's salary, maintaining the buildings, utilities, all of the types of things, teaching supplies, that all comes out of the general fund. And then we have other funds, which are like separate companies. So for instance, our Primetime Care program or our Latchkey program, that's a separate fund. It functions all by itself like it's its own company. And so we have other dollars, our bond fund and our sinking fund, those are separate funds that must legally remain separate. And so bond funds are the dollars that are raised when it is approved by the community. So when you approve it, we pay it over a period of years like you would your mortgage. But we get those dollars, just like you get your mortgage, we get those dollars right away. And so we have those dollars to spend. Well, those dollars have to be separated from general fund. They cannot be used on operations. It's illegal to use them on operations. In fact, it's very specific what those dollars are allowed to be used for. And it's based on the original application to the state. sinking fund, what Mr. Chatfield had mentioned earlier, it's a 0.5 mil that we've gone to the community and have gotten approved. Those dollars are also very specific, different from the bond fund, but are also very specific on what they're allowed to be used for, and also cannot be used for operations. And so the reason that I say that is because we cannot take money from the bond fund or money from the sinking fund to pay for our operations. So we could take money from a bond fund and build a new building, but we can't take money from a bond to pay for the teachers or to pay for the utilities for that building. And so the way this works is that when we sell the property, $700,000, that's money that goes into the general fund.
And where does the $1,750,000 come from?
I'll get to that. I'll get to that. And so the $225,000 is annual, that's also general fund. The $750,000 comes from our bond fund. The $1 million to relocate and to do the different things at Western High School and some of our other locations that are required are also bond fund. So over a period of 5 years, for instance, it's a $1.9 million savings for the general fund. Those are dollars that can be put into the classroom that can assist with our operational expenses. The $1,750,000 comes from our bond fund. And so when we're trying to balance our budget, when we say we're trying to balance our budget, we're talking about the general fund, what covers our operations and our teachers and all of the different things that impact our classroom. And so truly, it's a $225,000 annual savings. When we sell the building, $700,000, over 5 years, it's about a $1.9 million savings. For our general fund.
$225,000 annually for the, where does that come from?
That's for things like utilities. So those are only operational costs of the community education center. That does not include the maintenance. So Mr. Chatfield could speak to that. Maintaining that building, so anytime anything needs to be replaced, if the furnace goes or any of the various different systems in there, they're very expensive to repair and replace. So when we talk about $225,000, that's really just scratching the surface of the cost of that building. That's really just our operational costs. Those are the utilities and things that relate to the building. No, those come from our general fund.
From your general. Okay, so I have 2 other points to make. Number one, if it looks like it's going to happen, if the building is sold, I'm really concerned about what will be built on it. We already fought the people who wanted to build the apartments across from Mercer Beach. It was going to be not the luxury apartments that they said it was going to be. I'm really worried about what will become of that piece of property. And I know the rest of my fellow city council members are rubbing their hands together and thinking about how they're going to spend the extra tax money that we might get. I'm not necessarily one of those people. But the other thing is we have lost a lot of our heritage in Walled Lake. We lost the Pinos. We were about to lose the high school. They've got their sights set on the depot building now. In the past, we've lost a lot of historic buildings that are gone. And I'm also a member of the Commerce Township Area Historical Society, and I hate to see this history going, but when you talk about possibly designating the high school as a historic site, I can tell you that I am the only person on city council who would vote for that. The rest of them would be absolutely against it. They are not into history. If you need proof, all you have to do is look at Foster Farmhouse and see where that's going. Yeah. So.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank
comments.
you, Dr. Delgado. Back from my teaching days, I remember when people started packing up their backpacks and wanted to leave class early. I'm starting to get that sense. So here's what I want to say to you. First of all, thanks for being here. No matter what happens here, it's what makes this community great is the community involvement. From disparate points of view, right? Not everybody's going to have the same point of view, but in the end, we all want what's best for kids and adults and those who live in our community and work in the schools and our children, right? Our Board of Education members have taken time out of their day, not because they want to put on a show, but because they're really listening. And yes, they're unpaid volunteers, and yes, they care, and that's why they're here. That's why we're all here. We listen to everything you said. We have great notes to review when we go back, and I want to thank you for being a part of that. Over the next couple of days, if you have other thoughts, things you want to share, things we need to know, there's an email address, budget.
I just put it up.
It's right behind me there. Teachers should have eyes in the back of their head, that wasn't that good. But I want to thank you. Please share other thoughts you have, and just really thanks for your participation today. It means a lot to us.
Thank you.